guys, I'm going to show you how to do a brake job on this particular vehicle. Is a 2006 Nissan Xterra. The basic principles to change the brakes on this apply to multiple vehicles. Only thing that's going to change is probably the wrench sizes, and there's a couple different kind of calipers. This is a pretty standard caliper on this one here. But I'm going to just walk you through the ins and outs of doing a complete brake job on this Xterra. First thing we're going to do is take the wheel off. This particular wheel, 6 lug, 13/16. All right, now we got the wheel off, I can see a little bit more. On this particular vehicle, it was stopping good, but it had squeaking to it. On the stop, there's a bunch of brake dust, and the brake pad is wore down pretty good, but it's still safable for the rotor. The rotor's in great shape. Because all I'm gonna do to that is I'm gonna take it to my local parts store and just have them reface it and reuse this rotor, save a couple dollars. We're gonna put new pads on and everything. And I'll show you some points to clean on this to keep the brake pad sliding well after all this brake dust has been on and it started to squeak. And I'll walk you through all that here shortly. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is get this caliper off. 2 bolts to get the caliper off. It's gonna be a 14 millimeter. Right here's one of them, and right here's one of them up at the very top up here. All right, just like that, there's your caliper. Set it up here on top just to keep it out of our way for a minute. Kind of look at it, make sure that the gaskets around it are good still. This one wasn't leaking anything, didn't have any issues with it, so I'm just doing a quick little inspection. All right, the next thing you got is your brake pads. All right, your brake pads are just gonna slide out just like so. If you look, you see this little tiny wire right here? It clips in the bottom of each pad. If you look right here, I don't know how well you can see that, but there's actually just a little tiny hole right there that sets into. And that it rides in there just like so. You can just go ahead and just take that out, set it to the side. If you look at this here, inside this little dust clean out, these little grooves, it's what they're designed for is as the rotor goes across and use your brakes, this catches the dust off of them to keep dust off your rotor and your pads, and it just blows out through here. This one is completely jammed up with dust. It just needs time to be replaced. All right, next we're gonna take off these 2 bolts right here, and there's one up here, and they're 19 millimeter. If these haven't been off in a minute, these can be quite tough. Little breaker bar on it here. Let's see if we can get it broke loose. Be sure to try to keep your ratchet as level as possible so you don't strip it out, round the head off. Once you got it broke, you can go back to a ratchet and just spin them off. All right, now I got the caliper bracket on. The next thing we're going to do is get this rotor off. It's not falling off easy. It's not coming off by itself, which is normal. All you got to do is just kind of tap it with a hammer. When you're tapping it with a hammer, just tap on the insides here, right between each stud right here. And it don't have to be a hard swing, just a tap, just enough to break a little bit loose. Don't hit your studs, and you don't want to hit it on the side right here, because just bend that in and it'll mess up your rotors and mess up your pads and eat your pads wheeler. So just give it light little taps right here in the center. There it is, just like that, pops right off. All right, on this one we're also going to do a no bleed brake job. And it's pretty much just like it sounds like. We're going to compress these pistons back in without bleeding the system out. It's pretty simple to do. All you need for this is just a C-clamp and your old brake pad. You're just going to put your brake pad in there just like it would be if it was riding on the car working. And you're just going to clamp it down here compress it in, and here. If it was a single piston, usually you can get it right in the middle and hit it one time. On the double pistons, sometimes you kind of got to work side to side and kind of slide that piston in. I'm going to try to show you how to do this without getting in the camera too much. All right, I've got it set up on there. If you could watch real close, you'll see that go in. And I'm just doing slow, easy turns. You notice it going in. We're going to do that on each side. You want to do it kind of equal, maybe 2 turns on the side and then switch it out. You don't want to try to compress one side in all at one time because it's not going to be good on the caliper. It's real easy turns. That side right there is tight. That side's tight. Just a good snug on it. Make sure it's tucked up in there so you can fit your new pads in. All right, a couple things here on the bracket itself where the brake pad's right. I was just going to show you real quick. These right here, that let your bracket slide back and forth. That's the caliper ride on it. So every time you compress the brakes, it'll let it back off real easy so it doesn't lock. So make sure that these are good and loose. If they're stuck and you can't get them out, you can just pop them out, just a long rod in there. Just clean them up real good. Get your little wire brush and clean that rod up real good and put you just a dab of grease in there. That way it's sliding again real good. Because if it stops sliding, your brakes are going to lock up on you. Another thing, right in here is where they ride at, the pads. If you look at this, it's real gray and dusty and dirty. I always like to take a little bit of brake parts cleaner and a wire brush, just clean them up. That way the pad can slide around really easy and don't have to worry about it setting against the rotor and causing a heat issue. I'm just gonna clean one of these up. They pop right out. Sometimes if you get a brake kit, they'll come with new ones. You don't have to worry about it. As you can see, it's kind of dirty. I got a little bit of brake parts cleaner here. I'm gonna spray on it, let it set for just. I've got a wire brush and a plastic bristle brush. Sometimes the stuff on there is not that bad. It's just more dust than anything. Sometimes there is a little bit of corrosion on it. All right, guys, I went to the parts store and got the brakes for this truck and got the rotors turned on it. I'll go ahead and show you what all that looks like and what kind of brakes I got. All right, here's the rotors after they've been turned. Local parts store charges $10 to turn the rotors, so it's well worth the money. I got the Wagners, which is about the best you can put on it. If you notice, this one here has 2 dust grooves in it to pull the dust away a little bit better. They're thermoquiets. They're supposed to be a little bit quieter. And this one did come with a new hardware kit. Came with the new springs and brackets. Usually if you buy a good pair of brakes, they'll come with the extra hardware so you don't have to use that old stuff again. All right, let's go ahead and get this on the truck. All right, pretty simple. It goes on just like it came off. It'll kind of just sit there and float until we get the bracket on the back side of it. All right, got the bracket here. Went ahead and put the new clips in it. It's gonna slide right over, just like we took it off with the 19mm bolts. All right, next is the brake pads to put in the bracket. I always put a little caliper grease on it, just on the tips of it, just so the caliper can, or the brake pad can just slide back and forth real easy. Just a little dab around the tip of it. That's just where it's going to fit into that bracket. Just like so, not too much, just enough to let it slide around a little bit. All right, got our brake pads. Just going to set right in that little tray. They're going to slide right in. Just like so, push everything tight, make sure everything's in there good. If you remember on the last one, it had the springs in it. This one came with new springs. This particular pad calls for springs on the top and bottom of it. So we'll just stick those in there real quick. They sometimes can be a pain, but they've designed this to where it kind of locks it in a little bit. All right, go for the caliper. This is going to come back to our 14mm bolts. Once again on these, they don't have to be extremely tight, just a good little snug on them. All right, that's got it. We're done with the brakes. Throw your tire back on it. You're good to go. I hope this video helps you out a little bit, save you a couple dollars from going to budget brakes. And besides, when you do your own brakes, you're gonna take a little bit more time, maybe do them a little bit better than a budget brake would. But next video I'm gonna do is probably a rear brake, so look out for that. They'll probably be on the same vehicle. I'll get it out as soon as I can. I appreciate it. If you like it, please hit the like button. Have a good one, guys.